You finally get the promotion, you know, or the perfect relationship, the quiet weekend, maybe the financial stability you've literally been chasing for a passage of eras.
Right.
The finish line is crossed. The crowd cheers. You exhale. The victory is supposed to be sweet.
It's supposed to be the ultimate relief.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's supposed to bring this overwhelming tide of relief,
Mm.
but instead of immense joy, there's this quiet alarm bell that rings in the back of your mind,
Yeah. Just whispering at first.
whispering very softly that something is wrong. You start scanning the horizon. You think, where is the catch? When does the floor drop out?
It's a universal feeling, really.
It is. And so today's auditory exploration is all about why your brain is, well, actively allergic to peace.
Which sounds crazy, but it's so true.
It does sound crazy. But we are pulling together insights from cognitive psychology, ancient philosophical doctrines on duality and behavioral theory to really examine these invisible architectures governing our triumphs.
And our hidden self-sabotage, of course.
Right. We are unpacking the silent forces that dictate why your life feels the way it does and why we're so terrified of having exactly what we want.
Well, the human organism is just a fascinating paradox. I mean, we spend an endless tide of effort claiming we want absolute tranquility, right?
Oh, it sounds silly.
Yet our daily behavioral patterns suggest we are, like, desperately trying to avoid it.
We really are.
We culturally obsess over the concept of the triumphant exhale. You know, that singular moment where everything finally settles into a perfect equilibrium.
Like I finally made it.
Exactly. But when you look at the reality of how we operate, that finish line just vanishes. We navigate a landscape that is entirely designed for endless friction.
Okay, I want to paint a vivid, relatable picture for everyone listening. Think about your own life right now. Imagine striving toward a monumental zenith.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps it is a vocational breakthrough. You have sacrificed your evenings, your health, your social connections. Yeah. Or maybe it is the cultivation of a deeply resonant, harmonious partnership. Something you have sought after a vast constellation of failed, turbulent romances.
A very common scenario.
So you pour your energy into this pursuit. You push, you endure. And when success finally glimmers on the horizon, it is not built on a foundation of joy.
No, it rarely is.
It is built on the back of immense, bone-deep exhaustion. You feel like you have been endlessly dragging this colossal weight up a jagged, unforgiving incline. Your muscles are burning, your spirit is fraying.
And the wild part is we celebrate that exhaustion.
We totally do.
Society treats that level of intense fatigue as, like, the ultimate badge of honor. We display our scars and our dark under-eye circles to prove that we have earned our place at the summit.
Like, look how hard I suffered for this.
Right. The overwhelming majority of individuals operate under this exact paradigm. It is a completely shared reality. We expect the incline to be jagged.
We expect the burden to be colossal.
Exactly. But what is truly fascinating and what we really need to begin to deconstruct today is that this is not merely a psychological quirk.
What do you mean?
I mean, this is a systemic conditioned orientation toward friction.
Mm-hmm.
We are fundamentally oriented to expect the struggle.
Which brings us to a really unsettling pattern. Because what happens when the friction suddenly disappears?
That's the million-dollar question.
What happens when the weight reaches a plateau and just rolls forward on its own momentum? That is the core confusion for so many people.
Right? The system glitches.
Yes. When a moment of absolute harmony or effortless fortune finally arrives, say, you enter a partnership that has absolutely zero volatility, or you achieve a victory that required a mere fragment of your usual effort, we do not celebrate it.
No, we actually recoil from it.
We do. We feel a profound, visceral sense of suspicion.
Well, the biological response to unfamiliar peace is, it's actually almost identical to a threat response.
Wait, like a fight or flight thing?
Exactly. Think of it like a physiological immune system rejecting a perfectly healthy organ transplant. Oh, wow.
Right. The body attacks the new, healthy organ because its cellular signature is entirely foreign.
So it just assumes it's dangerous.
Yes. And in that exact same way, your subconscious mind attacks a healthy relationship or an effortless success because its emotional signature is foreign.
Because you aren't used to peace.
You nailed it. The peace feels alien, so the psychological immune system mounts a defense to destroy it.
The immune system rejecting a healthy organ? That is incredibly illuminating. Let me ground that with a universal example for the listener.
Go for it.
Imagine meeting someone who offers absolute peace instead of chaos. No mind games, no turbulent emotional swings, no silent treatments. Just steady, unconditional calm.
A dream, supposedly.
Supposedly. Or imagine stepping into a career role where the abundance flows naturally without you having to burn the midnight oil. Instead of embracing this, you start actively searching for the flaw in the diamond.
You're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Exactly. You orchestrate a conflict in that peaceful partnership over something totally trivial, like, how the dishwasher was loaded.
Right, classic sabotage.
Or you procrastinate or create unnecessary complexity in that easy job until you're rushing to meet a deadline in an absolute panic. You manufacture the jagged incline because the flat plateau feels existentially terrifying.
It really does, because if we dissect the underlying mechanics behind this reaction, it reveals a pretty profound truth about our inner conditioning.
Which is?
We have deeply, inextricably internalized a societal illusion, an illusion dictating that noble worth is exclusively forged in the fires of intense difficulty.
If it isn't hard, it isn't worth anything.
Exactly. If an achievement is not agonizing, we believe it holds no intrinsic value. We equate suffering with validity.
Wow.
And because harmony feels entirely foreign to our conditioned baseline, we engage in what we can call vibrational self-sabotage.
Vibrational self-sabotage.
Right. We unconsciously repel the very tranquility we claim to seek, choosing instead to reintroduce chaos just to feel a sense of familiar equilibrium.
I have to push back here, though. Or at least ask a critical question on behalf of anyone listening who feels frustrated by their own behavior right now.
Stu.
If our conscious minds so desperately crave peace, abundance, and effortless joy, and we talk about it constantly, we journal about it, we set goals for it, why does our internal compass deliberately steer us back into the storm?
It's maddening, I know.
Are we fundamentally broken? Is there like a glitch in our evolutionary wiring that makes us crave our own misery?
It is the most natural question to ask, but we really must reframe that perspective entirely. Humanity is not broken.
Okay, that's a relief.
You are functioning with absolute flawless precision. The issue is not that your system is glitching. The issue is the hidden set of instructions your system is executing.
Instructions.
Yes, this friction is not a biological imperative etched into our evolutionary architecture. It is an acquired addiction to a specific energetic frequency.
An addiction.
We are quite literally addicted to the biochemical cocktail of struggle. The spike of cortisol, the rush of adrenaline that comes from surviving a manufactured crisis. Your nervous system begins to crave that intensity.
So it's feeding a habit.
Exactly. Your system is functioning perfectly to maintain the addiction it has acquired.
So we are essentially addicts going through chemical withdrawal when our environment gets too quiet.
Precisely.
The anxiety we feel when things are going perfectly isn't our intuition warning us of danger. It is the nervous system experiencing withdrawal symptoms from the absence of chaos.
It's looking for its next hit.
That is a massive revelation. It completely inverts how we view our own anxieties. But how did we acquire this addiction? What exactly is writing these hidden instructions in our minds? Where does this frequency of struggle actually originate?
Well, to understand the origin, we have to introduce a paradigm-shifting assertion, one that really challenges the very foundation of how we perceive our own cognition.
Okay, I'm ready. We tend to believe that we generate all of our thoughts, right? That we are the sole authors of our internal monologue.
Yeah, of course. It's my brain.
But the reality of consciousness is far more complex. You do not possess a struggle complex. Rather, the struggle complex possesses you.
Wait, that sounds like we are entering the realm of science fiction. I don't possess the belief possesses me.
It sounds radical, but hear me out.
Are we talking about thoughts as independent entities?
We are speaking about the philosophical and energetic nature of beliefs. We typically think of beliefs as, passive mental sticky notes.
Yeah, just ideas we hold.
We assume we just write a thought down, attach it to the inside of our skull, and we can easily peel it off whenever we want to change our minds.
Right. If I want to think differently, I just change the sticky note.
But a deeply ingrained belief is not an inanimate object. On the non-physical planes, the mental and spiritual landscapes that act as the realms of cause beliefs function as autonomous, living, energetic organisms.
Living organism.
Yes, they have their own drive for survival.
Let me offer an analogy to make this visceral for the listener. Imagine a belief of inadequacy or struggle is like an invisible squatter.
Oh, I like that.
Or an energetic parasite. It takes up residence in the architecture of your mind, right in the living room of your consciousness.
Making itself right at home.
Exactly. And, like any living organism, it demands continuous nourishment to survive. If it does not feed, it starves and perishes.
That captures the dynamic perfectly. Because if we break down the existential physics of this process, the physical world we navigate, the environments we inhabit, the bank balances we observe, the interpersonal conflicts we experience, this is merely the realm of effect.
So it's just the symptom.
It is the delayed echo of what has already occurred internally. The true genesis of our reality, the origin point of everything we experience, occurs in the immaterial planes.
Where these beliefs live.
Right. These autonomous belief entities living in the realm of cause have one singular overriding objective: to consume your mental real estate so they can eventually materialize themselves in the physical dimension.
They want to become real.
A belief wants to be made real. It wants to cross the bridge from the immaterial to the material.
And to cross that bridge, it requires energy. It needs human attention as its fuel source.
Exactly.
So, to survive, an entity of struggle must force the host to continuously perceive and generate difficulty. If I stop struggling, if I find absolute peace and sit in it, the struggle belief starves.
It loses its power.
It loses its grip on my reality. So it compels me, it possesses my perception, forcing me to see obstacles where there are none, to provoke arguments with my spouse, to overcomplicate simple professional tasks.
It needs you to struggle so that it can continue to exist.
That's just wow.
It is exactly the case. It commandeers your cognitive faculties. It uses your own voice to rationalize the sabotage, making you believe the conflict is necessary or the overwork is essential for survival.
I have a hard time accepting this concept without some serious friction, though.
That's fair. What's the friction?
Well, if we frame our thoughts as autonomous entities possessing us, doesn't that entirely strip us of personal accountability?
I see where you're going.
Like, if I destroy my career or sabotage my relationship because of a belief entity of betrayal or unworthiness, I could just shrug and say, well, the energetic parasite made me do it.
Right, the devil made me do it defense.
Exactly. There are entire branches of cognitive behavioral therapy that firmly reject this, insisting that our thoughts are products of our own cognitive distortions, not rogue spirits. We generate them, therefore we own them, and we must take responsibility for them.
That is the central friction of this entire framework, and your pushback is entirely necessary. The risk of adopting a victim mentality here is immense.
So how do we avoid that trap?
Let us examine the mechanics of accountability through this lens. Accountability does not mean you must claim authorship of every stray destructive impulse that crosses your mind.
Okay.
Free will absolutely exists, but it does not lie in controlling every thought that arises. Free will lies in the awareness of the possession.
The awareness of the possession, meaning waking up to the fact that the squatter is in the house rather than believing you are the squatter.
Precisely that distinction. Until we recognize that a destructive thought is an external conditioned pattern demanding our energy, we claim ownership of it.
Yeah.
We wrap our identity around it. We say things like, I am a struggling artist.
Yes. Or,
Yeah.
I am just someone who is hyper anxious. Or, I am just bad at relationships. The moment we identify with the belief claims total dominion over us. We become the vehicle for its expression.
Because we think it's us.
Right. Free will is the space between the stimulus and the response. It is
Yeah.
the moment you step back and say, I am feeling a massive urge to destroy this peaceful moment. That urge is not my core self. That is the conditioned struggle complex demanding to be fed.
You separate the observer from the observed.
Exactly.
You realize you are the grand architecture of the house, not the muddy boots tracking dirt through the hallway.
I love that.
And by simply observing the thought without identifying with it, without acting on it, you cut off its food supply. You reclaim your autonomy.
Yes, that is the essence of free will. But knowing that this energetic parasite exists doesn't explain how it actually alters the physical world.
How do you mean?
Well, how does a thought in my head actually make a tangible mess in my real physical life? What is the bridge between the non-physical realm of cause and the physical realm of effect?
To understand that bridge, we have to look at the chronological sequence of creation. There is a precise mechanical architecture to how reality materializes.
Walk me through it.
It begins with concentration, the centralization of your attention and energy. Where attention goes, energy flows.
Right, the focus.
When a belief entity possesses you, it forces you to concentrate on it. You obsess over the potential for difficulty. You ruminate on the possibility of betrayal. You lie awake at night imagining the worst-case scenario at work.
We've all been there.
This intense, sustained concentration centralizes your internal energy, and that centralization initiates vibration.
So a thought, when concentrated upon long enough, becomes a feeling. A physical resonance in the nervous system.
Yes. The mental concept translates into a physiological state. The vibration gathers momentum in the body. As it sustains itself over time, it becomes your baseline. It becomes a frequency.
Frequency.
This frequency can also be understood as your overarching self-concept, the default state of your being. And ultimately, that frequency acts as a blueprint, organizing the chaotic potential of the physical world into a tangible reality that matches the blueprint.
Wow.
Concentration leads to vibration. Vibration becomes frequency. Frequency materializes reality.
Okay, let us introduce the concept of polarity here, because this is where the dynamic becomes wildly interesting.
Oh, definitely.
In physics and in ancient philosophical traditions,
Huh?
every force, every belief hides an energetic counterpart. For every shadow, there must be a source of light.
The dual nature of reality.
Right. For every paradigm of agonizing friction, there must exist a paradigm of absolute effortless ease. So if a belief in struggle is generating a frequency of struggle, what is happening to the opposite frequency?
This connects to universal philosophical axioms regarding duality. All perceived truths in our immediate physical dimension are merely half-truths.
Half-truths.
The physical realm is governed by contrast. Hot and cold, up and down, struggle and ease. But here is the deceptive nature of the belief entity.
What does it do?
The belief in struggle intentionally blinds you to its polar opposite. It cannot allow you to perceive effortless manifestation, because if you were to see it, to truly experience it, you would invariably choose it.
And if you chose ease, the belief in struggle would starve.
Exactly.
So the belief literally creates an impenetrable boundary around our perception. It builds walls around what we are neurologically capable of seeing and experiencing.
It really does.
Anything outside this boundary simply ceases to exist in our subjective reality. We're talking about sensory editing of the highest order.
The human brain processes an overwhelming, incalculable tide of sensory data every single second. To prevent us from going mad, the brain filters out almost everything.
Right? It has to.
But it only allows data that confirms our existing beliefs to reach our conscious awareness. If your baseline frequency is programmed for struggle, your perceptive filters will literally edit out the opportunities, the people, and the pathways that offer ease.
Let's apply this to a universal principle so we can really grasp the magnitude of this sensory blindness.
Okay.
Imagine someone who is completely possessed by the belief that human partnerships are inherently deceptive and painful.
Okay.
They have this energetic parasite of inevitable betrayal living in their mental real estate. They will remain totally blind to an endless tide of harmonious, loyal connections standing right in front of them.
They won't even register them.
Exactly. It is not that loyal people do not exist in their environment. It is that their belief system literally edits their sensory reality so they cannot perceive them as viable options.
They will unconsciously find the loyal people boring.
Yes, they will walk right past 50 incredible stable partners to lock eyes with the one person in the room who has the exact emotional architecture to validate their deeply held belief in betrayal.
And this brings us to quantum behavioral theory, or the way our internal states entangle with external circumstances.
Entanglement.
Right. Separation is an illusion unique to our immediate physical dimension. Consider the phenomenon where connected particles respond to one another across vast voids without time constraints. What happens to one instantly affects the other, regardless of distance.
Like an invisible tether spanning the fabric of space.
In the very same way, our internal frequency is intimately tethered to our external circumstances. When your internal frequency is locked into struggle, it instantly alters the fabric of your external reality to reflect that struggle.
It reaches out and shapes the world.
It repels the harmonious partner by projecting defensive behaviors. It attracts the chaotic situation by signaling a readiness for conflict. The internal and external are not separate, isolated domains. They are entangled.
You're constantly calling for the physical manifestation of your internal frequency.
The world is merely a mirror reflecting your baseline vibration.
We are living inside a matrix built by our own parasitic beliefs.
That's one way to put it, yeah.
But here is my issue with simply understanding this conceptually. Knowing this logically, rationally, is rarely enough to change it.
That is very true.
I can sit here and say, okay, I understand the mechanics, concentration leads to frequency, and my belief in struggle is blinding me to ease. I can read all the books. I can understand the philosophy.
But the behavior doesn't change.
Exactly. Tomorrow morning, I will still likely wake up and feel a rush of anxiety over a minor inconvenience. I will still feel the urge to overcomplicate my day. knowing the mechanics doesn't immediately dissolve the squatter.
No, it doesn't.
How do these entities anchor themselves so deeply within our neurobiology that logic and reason cannot touch them?
That is the crux of why human transformation is so profoundly difficult. The anchoring mechanism lies entirely within the subconscious mind.
The subconscious.
And the profound reality we must accept is that the subconscious mind operates entirely outside the boundaries of logic. Rationality, intellectual understanding, cognitive deduction, these mean absolutely nothing to the subconscious.
So you cannot reason with it.
Not at all.
You cannot just sit down and explain to your subconscious why peace is a healthier, more productive state than chaos. You can't show it a spreadsheet of how much time you're wasting on anxiety.
The subconscious does not speak the language of spreadsheets or logic. It has a singular language, a soul currency through which it learns and programs reality.
And what is that currency?
Emotional intensity.
Emotional intensity. Not intelligence, not reason, not moral high ground, but raw, visceral feeling.
Exactly.
Think of the subconscious like a primitive computer algorithm.
Yeah.
It only registers data if it is coded in blinding neon red.
I like that visual.
It ignores perfectly logical, beautiful code representing peace, ease, and harmony if it is written in plain, quiet text. It only pays attention to the loud, the intense, the terrifying.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. Whatever you experience with the highest degree of emotional intensity is what the subconscious accepts as absolute truth. If your moments of highest emotional intensity throughout your life have been moments of panic, conflict, or desperate striving, the subconscious assumes this intensity is the baseline required for survival.
Because it's what kept you alive so far.
Right. And this emotional programming forms the foundation of your self-worth. Your self-worth acts as the absolute impenetrable ceiling for what you can materialize in your life.
Let us unpack this ceiling of self-worth. Because a vast constellation of individuals tether their self-worth to the external material realm.
Yes, almost everyone does.
We feel worthy when the bank account reaches a certain threshold, when the relationship looks perfect from the outside, when we receive the prestigious title. But the external realm is an illusion characterized by constant fluctuation.
It's always moving.
It is the realm of effect, always changing, always shifting. If our value is inextricably tied to the external, our value is forever unstable. We are building a fortress on shifting sands.
It is a fragile existence, but the conditioning goes deeper into much darker territory.
How so?
Let us examine the immense danger of tying self-worth specifically to the capacity to endure hard work. In our society, we equate suffering with nobility.
We absolutely do. The person who works continuous, grueling hours, who barely sleeps, who sacrifices their personal life for the company, is treated as a modern hero.
We applaud their destruction.
Yes.
When we believe we must suffer to be valuable, the subconscious mind absorbs that logic through the mechanism of emotional intensity.
Because the suffering is intense.
Exactly. The exhaustion feels intense, the stress feels intense, so the subconscious records it as truth. It learns, I'm only worthy of taking up space. I am only justified in existing if I am in pain or under extreme pressure.
That is incredibly dark.
Therefore, the subconscious ensures we endure endless tribulations so we never have to face the terrifying prospect of feeling worthless. We effectively mandate our own suffering to justify our very existence to ourselves.
We create the jagged incline so we can prove to the world and to our own minds that we are strong enough to climb it.
Yes, we need the mountain.
Because if there were no mountain, if we were just standing in a beautiful flat meadow, we would feel completely useless. Our identity as the strong climber would vanish, leaving a void.
We can further analyze this through the lens of emotional conditioning and environmental adaptation.
Okay, tell me about that.
If an individual has endured a long passage of eras steeped in scarcity, poverty, or volatile, highly toxic emotional environments, their subconscious recalibrates. It adapts to survive the environment.
It gets used to the dark.
It begins to recognize toxicity or poverty as the standard, safe baseline. It associates those chaotic emotional intensities with normalcy and, bizarrely, with safety, simply because the chaos is known, predictable, and familiar.
So if you grow up in a raging storm, your nervous system thinks the storm is home. The roaring thunder is your lullaby.
That is a very poetic and very accurate way to phrase it.
Which brings up a really nuanced, heartbreaking point. If someone has this deep conditioning and they manage, through immense effort or sheer luck, to achieve sudden prosperity, or they finally meet a tranquil, loving, secure partner,
Right, the dream comes true.
will their own subconscious view this beautiful, positive outcome as an existential threat?
Uncategorically, yes.
Really?
If the new, peaceful reality surpasses the emotionally conditioned ceiling of self-worth, the subconscious sounds the ultimate alarm. It perceives the peace, the ease, or the abundance as an anomaly, a terrifying error in the system.
Because it's not normal.
The absence of the storm feels like a prelude to an ambush.
Because it does not match the baseline of struggle equals safety. The neon red code of emotional intensity is missing, so that the subconscious assumes the system is failing.
And so the subconscious will orchestrate scenarios, often entirely out of the conscious mind's awareness, to dismantle the success.
You will self-destruct.
It will cause you to impulsively overspend the sudden financial windfall. It will cause you to project past traumas onto the peaceful partner, picking catastrophic fights until they are forced to leave.
Just to get back to the chaos.
Right. It will cause you to neglect the easy, lucrative job until you are reprimanded or terminated. It will do whatever is necessary to return the individual to the familiar, chaotic comfort of the struggle baseline.
We are acting as our own executioners when it comes to happiness.
We truly are.
The gravity of this trap is immense. It is a self-sealing prison. If peace triggers a subconscious threat response, if ease feels like imminent danger, how can a person possibly break the cycle?
It requires a massive shift.
If we try to step out of the storm and into the quiet meadow, our internal system launches a full-scale rebellion to drag us back into the rain. What is the ultimate obstacle we have to overcome to survive the transition into peace?
The ultimate obstacle to shifting paradigms is a dangerous misinterpretation of our own internal signals.
What misinterpretation?
It is the mind's fatal misassociation of profound peace with the concept of boredom.
Boredom. That seems so mundane, so trivial compared to the grand tragedy of self-sabotage we just described.
I know it sounds small, but it is actually the linchpin of the whole trap.
How so?
Consider the physiological reality of entering a phase of harmony or ease. The sudden absence of friction leaves a massive energetic vacuum. The jagged mountain is gone, the heavy burden is gone.
Everything is easy.
But because the individual is addicted to the high-frequency vibration of struggle, their nervous system remains wired for high alert.
Waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly. In the absence of a genuine crisis, this vacuum feels profoundly uncomfortable. It feels empty. It feels agonizingly, unbearably boring.
Because we are vibrating at the frequency of a chaotic furnace, the sudden stillness feels like a suffocating void. The brain is expecting a tiger to jump out of the bushes, and when there is no tiger, it just paces back and forth, generating its own panic.
Our societal reflex is to drown out this stillness at all costs. We are terrified of the vacuum.
We really are.
Look at the architecture of our modern daily lives. We fill our auditory environment with a constant, endless tide of noise. Background music playing constantly, overlapping conversations, multiple screens flashing in our periphery, infinite scrolling.
We can't handle the silence.
And beyond the digital noise, we fill our physical schedules with manufactured crises. We overcommit to social obligations we despise. We involve ourselves in interpersonal dramas that do not concern us. We take on extra projects at work that we do not have the capacity for.
We seek perpetual stimulation because to sit in silence is to face the severe discomfort of peace.
Yes.
If we sit still, the squatter in our mind starts demanding food. The withdrawal symptoms of the struggle addiction kick in. The heart races, the mind floods with phantom anxieties.
It's chemical withdrawal.
By actively avoiding boredom, by constantly scrolling and rushing, we are indirectly fortifying the struggle complex. We seek out complexity and difficulty simply because it provides a hit of the chemical cocktail we are accustomed to.
It is exactly like an adrenaline addict who decides to retire to a tranquil, serene valley.
Oh, this is a great analogy.
They buy a beautiful, quiet cabin by a gentle stream. And within a few short days, the quiet becomes so deafening, the lack of stimulation so agonizing, that they literally begin setting fires in the surrounding woods just to have an urgent crisis to extinguish.
Wow.
They cannot handle the serenity because their internal baseline requires a catastrophic blaze to feel alive and purposeful.
That is a perfect, terrifying encapsulation of the human condition under the dominion of the struggle complex. We're all setting fires in our own serene valleys.
Sadly, yes.
So if we connect this to the broader picture of true recalibration, how do we stop setting the fires? How do we cure the addiction?
True recalibration requires a radical, deeply uncomfortable approach. It requires a willing, intentional immersion into absolute nothingness.
Immersing into nothingness. What does that actually look like in practice? How do we execute that?
One must willingly sit in the void, You must face the agonizing illusion of boredom head-on without reaching for a distraction.
Sit there.
You sit in a room in silence. No auditory noise, no screens, no manufactured tasks, no frantic pacing. You allow the nervous system to experience the sudden drop in stimulation.
That sounds awful.
It is awful at first. You face the physiological withdrawal symptoms of the struggle addiction. The anxiety will spike. The mind will scream that you are wasting time, that you are in danger, that you must be productive.
Was squatters throwing a tantrum?
Exactly. But you sit there until the mind, exhausted from searching for a crisis that does not exist, finally realizes a profound truth.
Which is?
That it is not bored. It is actually bathing in profound tranquility.
Wow.
Boredom is merely the withdrawal symptom of peace. It is the friction of the nervous system downshifting from a state of survival to a state of being.
The friction of downshifting.
Once you pass through the crucible of boredom, once you endure the withdrawal, you discover an infinite ocean of calm beneath it.
Boredom is the withdrawal symptom of peace. That single realization reframes those quiet, restless moments entirely.
It changes everything.
Instead of running from the stillness, reaching for our phones, or picking a fight to generate a spark, we need to lean into the discomfort of the quiet. We have to let the addiction starve.
That's the only way.
But knowing that my subconscious is going to fight me tooth and nail, that the adrenaline addict inside me is going to desperately want to set fires to prove my worth, what are the practical, energetic mechanics of making this leap?
How do we actually transition?
Right. How do we transition from the jagged incline to the tranquil river and ensure we stay there?
This brings us to the architecture of ease. The method for dissolving the struggle complex requires an internal, autonomous decision.
A decision.
It sounds deceptively simple, but it represents a massive energetic shift that rewires the entire architecture of your reality. You must declare internally with absolute, unwavering conviction that materializing your desires is easy, natural, and effortless.
Easy, natural, and effortless. I can tell you right now, for someone who has spent a lifetime pushing heavy burdens, that declaration is going to feel entirely irrational.
Of course it will.
It is going to feel absurd, almost insulting. My logical mind is going to scream, no, it isn't. Look at my history. Look at the evidence. Everything has been hard. The world is brutal.
And that screaming is the struggle complex fighting for its life.
The parasite defending its territory.
That is the belief entity protecting its territory. Of course, the squatters will tell you that the concept of ease is a lie. But you must remember the mechanics of transition we discussed earlier.
Which ones?
The conscious, logical mind might reject the declaration entirely, but we are not trying to convince the conscious mind. We must bypass the conscious mind entirely. We must communicate directly with the subconscious, and we must do so using its singular language.
Emotional intensity, the neon red code.
Exactly. The technique is internal cultivation. Because the subconscious only learns through emotional intensity, you must use vivid, focused imagination while in a state of profound physiological relaxation.
So you have to be relaxed first.
You cannot reprogram a nervous system that is currently operating in survival mode, running from a perceived threat.
So we have to quiet the nervous system first. We have to shift from the frantic high beta waking state to a highly receptive, deeply relaxed twilight state of consciousness.
Absolutely. You must enter a state of deep physical stillness. In that relaxed state, the gateway to the subconscious opens.
And then what?
You then construct a vivid imaginative scenario, a scenario of absolute, effortless triumph. You see yourself receiving the vocational breakthrough without having sacrificed your health. You visualize yourself walking through a quiet park with the deeply resonant, emotionally safe partner.
You picture the peace.
But the crucial element is that you do not merely watch it like a movie on a screen. You feel it.
You generate the physical emotion of having already achieved it. You manufacture the biochemical reality of peace.
Yes. You internally loop that scenario of effortless triumph until it generates a genuine, visceral, physical emotion in the body. A sweeping wave of profound relief, a deep sense of gratitude, or quiet, unshakable confidence.
And the subconscious registers that feeling.
When the physical body feels that emotion, the subconscious mind, which cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined event and a physical reality, accepts it as a lived experience.
It thinks it actually happened.
By repeatedly engaging in this internal cultivation, you systematically overwrite the old baseline of self-worth.
You are feeding the subconscious a new standard of normalcy. You are replacing the toxic diet of struggle and chaos with a sustaining diet of harmonious victory. You're rewriting the algorithm.
And the most vital principle to grasp in this entire exploration is this. Raising this internal ceiling of worth automatically, inevitably raises the external boundaries of your reality.
Because of that entanglement we talked about.
Because the internal landscape and the external physical dimension are quantumly entangled, once your subconscious accepts that ease is your natural, inherent state, your external reality will instantly begin to mirror that ease.
The outer world shifts to match the inner world.
The artificial walls of limitation dissolve. The opportunities for effortless success suddenly become visible to your sensory perception.
I want to introduce a major caveat here because there is a dangerous trap that I think many listeners might fall into when hearing about effortless manifestation and internal cultivation.
Let's clear it up.
Does this imply a philosophy of total inaction? If everything is just a matter of changing internal frequencies, entering relaxed states, and looping imaginative scenarios, do we just sit in a void on our couches, staring at the wall, and wait for the universe to serve us a magnificent life on a silver platter?
Just waiting for magic.
Exactly. Are we bypassing the requirement to participate in the physical world?
I'm profoundly glad you raised that point because it is the most common and dangerous misinterpretation of this philosophy. Action is entirely necessary.
We still have to do things.
We exist in a dense physical dimension. Producing physical results requires physical movement. The law of cause and effect remains intact. However, what changes is not the presence of action, but the texture of the action.
The texture of the action. Explain the mechanics of that transformation.
When you are possessed by the struggle complex, action is used as a weapon. It is a heavy battering ram you use to smash down doors that are locked against you.
It's exhausting.
It is exhausting, violent, filled with severe friction, and driven by an underlying panic that if you stop swinging the ram, you will perish.
Yeah.
But when you shift your internal frequency to the baseline of ease, action is no longer a weapon. It becomes the natural, effortless condensation of vapor turning into water.
It is a phase transition. The environment reaches the right temperature, and the physical manifestation simply condensates out of the atmosphere.
Exactly. Action becomes the gentle midwife bridging the immaterial consciousness into physical reality.
You still do the work.
You still make the phone call. You still apply for the role. You still initiate the difficult conversation. You still build the business. But the energetic engine behind the action is entirely different.
It doesn't feel like a fight.
It feels inspired, natural, and perfectly timed. You are moving with the current rather than furiously swimming against it. The action does not deplete your life force, it invigorates you.
So to synthesize this monumental shift, the external labor might look identical on a spreadsheet.
To an outside observer, sure.
You're still working, still building, still engaging with the complexities of the world, but the internal engine driving that labor has undergone a radical transformation.
A complete 180.
It is no longer a chaotic furnace burning you alive from the inside out, demanding more and more fuel just to keep from freezing. It has become a quiet, deep, unstoppable river, naturally carving a path toward the ocean through the path of least resistance.
The destination is reached not through the application of brutal force, but through alignment with natural flow.
This changes the entire foundation of how we approach our daily lives. It redefines what it means to be successful.
It really does.
As we guide this conversation toward its final stage, I want to zoom out. We have been talking for a long time about individual struggles, personal burdens, and private jagged mountains. But look at the vast magnitude of human potential that is currently trapped behind these manufactured walls of struggle.
It's tragic.
Look at what we are losing as a species.
The loss is staggering. It truly is beyond calculation. Imagine a civilization, a collective humanity that uncouples its sense of nobility from its capacity to suffer.
What a world that would be.
What if we collectively stopped believing that agony was the necessary price of admission for existence? The sheer volume of human energy we currently waste on enduring unnecessary friction, on fighting manufactured crises, on recovering from burnout, that energy could be redirected.
It could be used for anything.
It could be channeled toward boundless creation, toward profound compassion, toward exploring the deepest mysteries of the cosmos and the mind.
We would stop fighting shadows in the dark and start building magnificent structures in the light.
Think of it through a cosmic analogy. We, individually and as a collective, possess a universal worth that is already entirely whole.
It's already there.
It is not something we have to earn through blood, sweat, and tears. Much like the solitary seed of an ancient colossal tree, the entirety of our future majesty and potential is already encoded within us from the very beginning.
Inside the seed,
The sprawling branches, the vibrant leaves, the deep, unshakable roots, they all exist perfectly within the architecture of that tiny seed.
and crucially, waiting not to be built through agonizing labor but simply to be revealed through natural growth.
Yes.
A tree does not wake up and struggle to become a tree. It does not feel anxiety about growing its branches. It does not force the process. It simply allows its inherent blueprint to unfold in the presence of light and water. It grows in a state of continuous ease.
Precisely. We are the same. Our infinite potential is waiting to be revealed through the natural, effortless flow of our highest frequency.
We just have to get out of our own way.
We just have to stop actively resisting the ease. We have to stop defending our limitations. We have to lay down the battering ram, recognize the squatter in our minds for what it is, and actively choose the quiet meadow over the jagged mountain.
And as we conclude this profound journey today, I want to leave everyone listening with a final, lingering thought.
Something to ponder.
Something to explore long after the echo of this conversation fades into the background of your day. We have spent an entire lifetime proving our worth through exhaustion, using our fatigue as currency to buy our right to exist.
The ultimate scam.
But what if you just stopped? What if you laid the burden down right now? If you no longer had to prove your right to exist through the agonizing exhaustion of your efforts, what magnificent realities would your mind suddenly have the free space to create?
The possibilities are endless.
I want you to sit with that in the stillness. I want to thank you for joining us in this space of shared discovery, for engaging with these invisible architectures, and for entertaining the terrifying, beautiful possibility that profound peace might just be your natural state.
The finish line is not a destination you must drag yourself across. The true equilibrium is realizing that the journey itself never required you to carry the weight.
Until next time, keep observing the structures of your mind and never be afraid to sit in the stillness.